What if the most important story the news tells you has nothing to do with the facts, and everything to do with how you should feel? We are swimming in an ocean of information. Breaking news alerts flash on our phones, headlines scroll across our screens, and voices argue relentlessly on a 24-hour loop. Each one claims to hold a piece of the truth. One side tells you to be afraid, the other tells you to be outraged. One presents a hero, another a villain. It's a battlefield of narratives, and we are caught in the crossfire. We think we're consuming information to form an opinion, but what if the information is actually designed to form us? To shape our emotions, our identities, and our sense of belonging? The real battle isn't for your mind. It's for your nervous system. This isn't about left versus right, or one channel versus another. This is about the fundamental mechanism that powers the entire media machine. In this video, we are going to decode the news, not by analyzing a single story, but by deconstructing the very way stories are told. We'll look at the psychological architecture beneath the headlines, the invisible script that guides our reactions, and by the end, you won't just see the news differently. You will see the story of yourself in a whole new light. To do this, we need to understand a concept called framing. Think of it as the box a story comes in. The facts might be the same, but the box, the words, images, and emotions it's wrapped in, determines how we receive it. And what we'll discover is that the box is often more important than what's inside. Most of us believe we watch the news to be informed. We see ourselves as rational observers, gathering objective data about the world. The ideal is a trusted anchor, delivering just the facts, allowing us to make up our own minds. We want to be responsible citizens, armed with knowledge. We turn on the TV or open an app expecting a window to the world. And for a moment, it feels like we're getting it. A politician gave a speech. A new study was released. A company's stock went up. These seem like simple, verifiable truths. We absorb them, file them away, and feel a little more connected, a little more aware. We trust the process. We see reports of a protest in a major city. The camera shows people marching, holding signs. The reporter tells us the facts, the number of attendees, the location, the subject of their protest. It all seems straightforward. This is information. But here is where the illusion begins to crack. Have you ever flipped the channel and seen that exact same protest described in a completely different way? On one channel, it's a mostly peaceful demonstration. The story is framed around civic engagement, passionate citizens exercising their rights. On another, it's a chaotic disruption, framed around blocked traffic, angry shouting, and the potential for violence. The core fact, a protest happened, is the same. But the stories are universes apart. And so are the feelings they create in you. Inspiration versus fear. If the same event can produce opposite emotional realities, which one is the truth? And what if the point wasn't to tell you what happened, but to tell you how to feel about it? To understand how this works, we need to look at our own minds. Let's talk about a psychological concept called the framing effect. It's one of the most powerful and invisible forces shaping our reality. The framing effect proves that the way information is presented, rather than the information itself, dramatically influences our decisions and judgments. It's not about lying. It's about choosing which truths to emphasize. Let us re-examine a story we've all seen 100 times, a local crime report. The anchor says, "Police have arrested a suspect in a recent string of burglaries. The suspect has a prior criminal record and was found with stolen goods." This frame focuses on individual failure. The story is simple. A bad person did a bad thing and was caught. The implied solution is more policing, stricter punishment. Now, let's reframe it using the exact same event. A resident of the city's most impoverished neighborhood, which has a 40% unemployment rate and has seen school funding cut for 3 consecutive years, was arrested for a series of burglaries. The frame is now systemic. The story is no longer about a single bad apple, but about a complex web of social and economic pressures. The implied solution is completely different. job programs, education funding, community support. Nothing was invented or falsified. But by changing the frame, by choosing which set of facts to include in the story, the narrative is completely transformed. What seemed like objective reporting was actually an act of ideological construction. And this is happening with every single story you consume. The choice of a single word, terrorist versus freedom fighter, undocumented immigrant versus illegal alien, corporate tax cut versus job creator incentive, isn't just a choice of vocabulary. It's the construction of a reality, and we've been trained to not even notice. Now, if this is true for small, everyday stories, what happens when we apply this lens to a massive, world-altering event? Think back to a moment of national or global crisis, a financial collapse, a natural disaster, a pandemic. Remember the initial shock and confusion. In those moments, we are desperate for a coherent story, a narrative to make sense of the chaos. And the media machine provides it. But it doesn't provide one. It provides several competing narratives, each perfectly framed for a different audience. Let's take the 2008 financial crisis. For one audience, the story was framed as a tale of Wall Street greed. The villains were slick, predatory bankers who gambled with our money. The solution was regulation and punishment. For another audience, the story was framed as a failure of government. The villains were meddling bureaucrats who forced banks to give bad loans. The solution was deregulation and free market principles. The event was singular. The economic collapse happened to everyone, but the reality we inhabited was fractured. We were sorted into tribes, armed with different stories, different villains, and different morals. The emotional impact was profound. It didn't just inform our opinions. It forged our identities and created deep, lasting divisions. The crisis became a mirror, reflecting not what happened, but who we already were. If the same event can create entirely different moral universes, then the news is no longer a shared source of truth. It's a machine for generating conflict. Which leads to the real question: if we aren't consuming reality, what are we actually consuming? To answer that, we have to look at why our brains are so willing to be captured. The uncomfortable truth is, our brains are not objective information processors. They are validation machines. We are biologically wired to seek out information that confirms what we already believe. This is called confirmation bias. It feels good to be right. It creates a sense of safety, certainty, and belonging. The modern news landscape has been expertly engineered to exploit this fundamental human need. It has transformed from a service that broadcasts information to the many into a service that narrowcasts validation to the few. Your newsfeed, your chosen channel, your favorite commentators, they aren't just giving you news, they are giving you a daily dose of "you are right." They confirm your suspicions about the other side, validate your fears about the future, and reinforce your identity as a smart, moral person on the correct side of history. This is the emotional core of the machine. It's not selling you information. It's selling you the feeling of certainty in an uncertain world. It's a powerful, addictive loop, and it's not a modern invention. This is simply the most efficient propaganda system ever designed, because it works by making us feel like we are thinking for ourselves. But I know what you might be thinking. This sounds incredibly cynical. What about real journalism? The investigative reporters who expose corruption, the war correspondents who risk their lives to show us the truth, the stories that speak truth to power and change the world for the better. Surely that transcends this cynical model of framing and bias. That is the exception. That is the real story. And it's true, those acts of journalistic courage are real and vital. But even the most profound truth to be heard must be packaged into a story. Let's look at the most famous example: Watergate. It's the pinnacle of investigative reporting. But to make the public understand and care about a complex web of political espionage, Woodward and Bernstein, and the editors at the Washington Post, had to frame it. They created a narrative with clear heroes, the dogged reporters, a shadowy, powerful villain, the Nixon administration, and a ticking clock of suspense. They simplified a messy reality into a compelling drama. They had to. Without that frame, without that story, the facts would have been a dry, confusing mess that most people ignored. Even their greatest act of virtue, telling the truth, had to be delivered through the very same tool of narrative construction. Their noble goal was powered by the same engine. Their redemption was, in fact, the ultimate proof of the model. Even the truth needs a story to survive, and every story selects, simplifies, and shapes. The purest virtue is still subject to the laws of the machine. So, let's put it all together. We start out believing the news is a window showing us reality. Then we notice the window is actually a frame, carefully constructed to make us feel a certain way. We learn that this frame is designed to feed our brain's deep-seated need for validation, to confirm that we are on the right team. Finally, we see that even the most noble and truthful stories must use these same tools of narrative construction to even be heard. The daily news cycle, then, is not a report on the state of the world. It is a relentless, 24/7 narrative manufacturing plant. Its primary products are not facts, but feelings: anger, fear, validation, and belonging. The final breaking point for us as consumers is the moment we realize that the intense emotions we feel about the world, the outrage at our political opponents, the fear of the future, the certainty in our own rightness, were not simply our own organic reactions. They were the intended product. We are not the audience of the story. We are a component in the machine. Now that we understand the machine that moves us, what does it truly mean to be informed? The answer to that question changes everything.